Orit, how are you? You need to open your mic.
I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
You too.
Yeah. Now I'm living in a really beautiful place, like in the mountains and in the vineyards also. At the moment, they're harvesting their grapes. Poor guys. And you are in Haifa? You were in your new apartment?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's not so new anymore. What is it, 2 years already or something?
2 years. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Good. Do you think everybody's back, more or less? Because then we can continue. Okay, so we go back to these four misconceptions, which are so important to understand. There was a message in the chat. Yeah, 11:15. So seeing things, that's so so important to understand them. That, and it's good that, you know, in the moment when we catch the misconception, when they also to see like the reason, like for example, why am I getting, not so much why am I getting angry, but it's like with the anger, it's always good to ask what needs did not get fulfilled. Yeah, so that we start to understand, but yeah, I have these needs, but I'm in samsara. So how can I think that this is realistic, to think that all these needs will get fulfilled all the time, for example, or when something breaks, or, you know, something gets out of existence, or things that are not happening the way we want them to happen. So we forget about karma, we forget about impermanence. And especially when you are having a lot of pleasure, which I said, you know, nobody says you shouldn't have any pleasures, but it's really good to examine, like when you, we were talking about cleaning windows, right? So, you know, there's something that we don't really enjoy that much to do because it's so difficult to get them really clean, especially here where the sun comes directly in for quite a few hours. So then you see all the little spots and streaks. So then, but when you do something that maybe you don't like so much, but you know that, you know, it's not pleasure, but you know, it needs to be done. Once it's done, you're really happy. With the pleasures, once they're finished, you're actually quite unhappy and are looking for the other one. And even if you have another one, it's like, it seems as if the level of contentment is getting lower and lower and lower and lower, to see that what we think is happiness is actually suffering. So it's, you know, we understand them intellectually, but it's not enough. We really have to, in the moment when it happens, we are disappointed or angry or not content or whatever, it's really good to check what happened. You know, why do I have this affliction now? Is it because I have wrong views, or these misconceptions, or wrong expectations, especially when friends are not fulfilling our wishes? You know, it's very difficult to deal with this. Okay, so this goes kind of into the general teachings of the Buddha, like these Four Noble Truths, the Four Misconceptions, the Four Seals. And now we would start with the Lam Rim. So the Lam Rim is divided into 3 levels. And of course, right from the beginning, as a Mahayana practitioner. So as I said at the beginning, when we started, the Lam Rim is a manual how to progress on the path, okay? So that means it implies that you already accept the Four Noble Truths. You already know your potential. You already know that you want to attain full awakening. And then you have this beautiful text. So Tsongkhapa divides it into 3 levels. Also, Atisha did that already, I think, yeah. So it's like, but we should practice like as if, you know, at the beginning we practice as if our goal is this. When we have then done that, then we go to the next step. We practice as if our goal is da, and so on. So the lower scope, and it's not lower because I think maybe better say first scope. The first scope is that you practice because you want to have a next good rebirth. You don't want to end up in the lower states. We'll come to that, what it is, in a minute. So for that, you need to first see, as we did in the reflection, do I have the conditions to practice for that? Yeah, which is called precious human rebirth, which we're happy and we want to use it. We want to use these good conditions. The next topic that you internalize or you try to realize is that this condition is not going to last. You know, even if I'm not dying, I still, you know, I can get sick or financial problems, or the country's closed, I cannot travel anymore, there's no Zoom and all this. You know, all of it that we enjoy so much now, it can fall apart. But what they're talking about is more death and impermanence. That at one point this life will be finished. I will not be in a human body anymore. Who knows where I will end up? We don't know where we came from. We don't know where we're going to. So it's not so good, you know. I say also, maybe you don't have, but I don't have enough fear of being reborn in the lower states, to be honest. I do believe in it, but it's a bit like, you know, Jacquette said, but then still there's doubts. And when I do firmly believe that there's future lives, but I see myself as another human, you know, although I know that if I look at my mind, not sure that it will activate a good imprint at the moment of death. So then also it's good to see, you know, quite confident. Yeah, I will continue with the Dharma practice next life. I'm not sure. Yeah, so this is why we have to think about death and impermanence again and again and again. And on Wednesday, we when we did the Bodhicharya Avatara, I don't know what happened here. My computer is doing strange things. So when we did Bodhicharya Avatara, we started with the 7th chapter, and the 7th chapter is about enthusiasm or joyful effort or diligence, sometimes called perseverance. And it's, you know, there's so much talk about death and dying. And, you know, me again, then I thought, yeah, I keep forgetting that I'm going to die. And I just think, yeah, everything will be okay, but I'm not sure. To really remind us of what we really want is that, you know, we need to do it now. So it seems like depressing to think about impermanence and death, but it's really, really helpful. It really, really is. And to see and to check, am I prepared? Do I know what to do? And then to train properly for that also. So that's next topic. It will not last. And then what comes after death? Of course, then we look at karma, because it's our previous actions that create potentials or imprints that will then determine where we are going to be reborn. This we'll do in the afternoon today. And then the next topic actually would also be refuge. You know, that you need to trust something. You need to have a source where you think that it will be protecting you. Refuge means, you know, we are a refugee, we need to be protected from danger. So question is, can the Buddha protect us? Is the Buddha like an omnipotent God? What do you think? Question to you. You know, when we say, like, you know, if we take refuge properly, then you're really protected. Is it the Buddha that is protecting us?
Maybe it is like taking refuge that is protecting us, in the sense that, like, when we take refuge, we encourage our trust in our path and like reminding ourselves. So this reconnection is what protects us in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you know, ultimately you have to become your own protector. I mean, the Buddha can help us by applying, when we apply the methods now. This is how the Buddha is helping us. So he's helping us. I do not think so. Okay, yeah, it's like remembering the Buddha at the time of death. It reminds us of our practice, and then Then if we have the methods ready, if we're still in a state where we are more or less okay, then the mind will go that way. But I'm not sure if we can trust that. You know, if I see how people are before they die, they're usually not that clear in the head. So this is why this whole thing repeating again and again and again and again and again and again, so that the mind then does it automatically. You know, so that's why it's quite good to, when before you go to sleep, to kind of go through the absorptions or have positive thoughts or dedicate and do all these kinds of things. Yeah. So when we say taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha, it is the Dharma that is protecting us, but only the Dharma that we practice, not Dharma that is just standing on the bookshelf in the books. Okay. So maybe for those who are new, Buddha is not a and not an omnipotent God. It doesn't mean that Buddhism doesn't accept gods. They do accept gods, but not gods that there is no being in Buddhism that has absolute control over the universe, like an omnipotent God. And that's terrible, you know, because that means we have to do it. Because I was thinking with the COVID, you know, if there would be an omnipotent God, but unfortunately, I never believed in this. If there would be such a being, so he gives us this COVID, and then like parents, you know, when they lock the kid in the room, then after a while they think, okay, now he's suffered enough, he's punished enough, and they open the door, and then this omnipotent God says, okay, I take the COVID away. But unfortunately, it's not like this, and we can see it's not like this. That it's we human beings on this planet, we created the cause and we created the problem, especially with the climate warming. And so we have to figure it out. And it's the same with past, future lives, enlightenment, and all this. We have full responsibility. Now, of course, then it's the question, why are we going, you know, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, da, 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 da. There is something coming from the Buddha. It's not that the Buddha is like an ordinary being and has absolutely no powers. And I can't remember who said it, but I think it was maybe Geshe Trungpa Gyatso, that we asked about, you know, pujas. Why are we doing pujas? Is it because we have to do it ourselves? The Buddhas can't really help us. He says, yeah, they can help a little bit, maybe 20%. Yeah, and 80% it's your karma, what is happening. So I think what the Buddhas can do also when we do prayers and put the mind in that kind of state, they can activate the positive karma. But again, not, you know, again, it has to come from our side. So it's quite complicated. It's not that all this, you know, when they say you have full responsibility, that the Buddha has absolutely no control or no power, but he doesn't have as much as we actually like. So then that belongs to this first level of the Lam Rim, you know, wanting to get out of samsara, then trusting the Buddha's methods that they will get me there, understanding I have the conditions, and then, but also knowing that they don't last. Yeah. Usually when you look at the Lam Rim, it comes a little bit different order. So when we look at the prayer again, which is not really, where is it? Coming. Here. Yeah. So when it says the foundation of all good qualities, kind venerable guru, he's the one. It's, you know, it's really thanks to the gurus that we know what the Buddha is, because me, if I wouldn't have ended up in Dharamsala, I wouldn't have had gurus. Maybe I would have a Buddha statue standing somewhere, you know, in the garden or somewhere, but maybe even in the bathroom. But I would have absolutely no idea about the Dharma, nor about the power of the Sangha, actually. So it's always these three things when we take refuge. So who is putting me there to have some faith in it is the guru. And even if you're born as a Buddhist, it's still your parents might, you know, give you some kind of faith or trust because they also practice, but you still need the teachers. And this is what is so nice about, you know, religions or spiritual practices. where they have still a lot of living teachers, where people are not just going to a temple or to a place just to pray and do offerings and then think that's it. But it's like we receive teachings again and again and again and again until we have internalized it. So that's the first topic in the Lam Rim. And then the next one is understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth found only once. So it's the precious human rebirth. Then it's death and impermanence. And then is karma. And here it doesn't explicitly say that we are taking, that then we're taking refuge. But if you look at the more extensive Lam Rims, then the next topic will be would be refuge. Okay. But sometimes, you know, when people think that the Lam Rim is a text for beginners, and they start to teach in that order, and they teach about refuge, I think if nobody has ever heard about Four Noble Truths and all this, and you start with precious human rebirth and impermanence and death and all that, I think it's a bit too early. So but this is how you practice. And then of course, you know, refuge, you take refuge all the time. If you look at Gampopas, so that's the lower level. Then the middle level is, you think about, okay, then if I practice all this, take care of my karma, I will have a good human rebirth every time round, because for a human rebirth, we need positive imprints. We cannot attain a human rebirth with, you know, as cause a negative or an imprint that's been done through an affliction. So then you think, okay, I'm human, and then even though at the beginning you think, wow, human body and human mind is great to practice Dharma, because it's true. We don't have too much suffering, but we also have some pleasures. Yeah, so we can see the difference, and we can figure things out. We have a lot of resources and intelligence how to deal with sufferings that animals don't have. For example, they only have their instincts. But you know, a broken bone in an animal, they're not going to put the cast on unless it's a human who is putting the cast on, and so on. If you look at animals, you know, a cat, I think, is still chasing after the mice like it did 1,000 years ago. Whereas if you look at how humans live from 1,000, 2,000 years ago till now, there's a lot of difference, isn't there? Even if you go even more back. Whereas the animal world, it does also evolve, but not in the same way. It can't take so many outside help. So this is why the human condition is the best, because we have so much, we can understand so much. But then we look at the other side, there's still a lot of shortcomings, there's still a lot of suffering, and we can see that now. And it keeps us, you know, as long as we have no guarantee that we will be reborn again and again and again as human. And it keeps us in this cycle where we have suffering of pain, suffering of change, and the all-pervasive suffering, and so on. We'll talk about this tomorrow. So you want to get out. You try to see the main cause for it. So you want to get out of it, not to be reborn again and again and again and again in an uncontrolled way. So that's the middle level. And there you practice ethical conduct, concentration, and wisdom. These are called the 3 higher trainings. And then, but then you see how dependent we are on others. So you come to the highest level and you say, but not just for me, I want to do this for all other sentient beings. So the first goal is not to be reborn in the lower state. The second goal is not to be reborn in samsara in general. And the third goal is not to go into nirvana without remainder. This is why I mentioned the nirvanas before. Like the mind is not reincarnated anymore. It just goes into peaceful bliss, and that's it. Now, of course, there's texts which say, I usually don't like to go so much into that because it seems a bit denigrating. It says, well, if you decide to go on that path, then the Buddhas will come and shake you out of there. And I don't know, you know, I don't know how long one stays in that nirvana. And also it's not important because we don't have that goal. So we don't need to worry so much what all these other poor Theravadian practitioners are doing when they are in nirvana. It's like, we want to go all the way. So it's good to know from the beginning to go all the way, but we also need to know, in order to practice, I need to have precious human rebirth. In order, when I have a human rebirth, it's only with that one I can get out of samsara. And then having gone out of samsara, then I want to use these skills and the wisdom and the compassion in order to help all sentient beings. So this is why it is divided into these 3 levels, into these 3 parts. If you look at Gampopa's The Jewel Ornament of Liberation, he divides it into 6 parts, which I find also very, very helpful. So first he says, you need a cause in order to attain enlightenment. It's all about enlightenment, right? Or full awakening. So the primary cause is our Buddha nature. So he starts with that. And I think this is really, really beneficial, especially for us Westerners, because we don't have that confidence that our mind is pure from the beginning. So that's the primary cause. Then the working basis, what are you working with, is precious human rebirth, right? So then a contributing cause, something that will help you bring that Buddha nature to the surface, is your spiritual master, one or many, or people who guide you, people who teach you these methods, or just Shakyamuni Buddha also, like somebody who knows the path really well, somebody who has gone this path himself and then knows how to guide you there. So then I want to see the 4th part is the method, so you need a method in order to bring up that Buddha nature to surface, is the instructions of the spiritual master. Then the result of this is Buddhahood. Then the activities benefiting all sentient beings without conceptual thought. Yeah, so Gampopa divided into these 6 parts. And if you look at, for Uttara Tantra, if you look at the Sublime Continuum, it has 7 parts. And so the first 3 parts are talking about the qualities of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Now, again, if you're not a Buddhist, I'm not sure if that's very helpful, because my dentist is quite interested in Buddhism, and especially about emptiness. He reads all the books about emptiness and Nagarjuna and all this, and we discuss, And so I gave him the Sublime. No, I didn't give it to him. I think he bought the book, The Sublime Continuum, and he then said, next time I came to see him, he said, "Oof, I thought that Buddhism is such a rational system. But now I read this book and I stopped pretty soon, because it talks about the qualities of a Buddha. So of course, the qualities of a Buddha are boundless. So for us, it seems like miracle. Yeah. So then he said, I don't have much faith in that. So I think when we know the methods of the Buddha and we start to apply them like this, then when we read about the qualities of the Buddha, which is important to know in order to take refuge properly, then it's good to start with this, to listen to what the Buddha says, and then to examine this, then just to start with the qualities of a Buddha. But again, people are different. I don't know. But he said, he's like, whoa, what a strange text. So he didn't read on, because he was quite put off with these, the qualities of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So these are the first 3 points. And then the 4th point, which is the most important one, talks about potential, talks about the Buddha nature. And then what is this Buddha nature doing? And that's why it's called Uttara Tantra. Tantra means continuum. Uttara means sublime, like our sublime potential continues until where? Until enlightenment. And then it talks about qualities of enlightenment, and then the activities of a Buddha. So that's the whole text. So what one usually teaches is this 4th part, is the what's it called? The potential, so that we generate the attitude of having some trust that we have Buddha nature and Buddha potential. But you will not be omnipotent, but you will be omniscient. You will know exactly what goes in everybody's mind without being disturbed by it and having, without having to think, oh, what can I do for this person? This is why, these 3 words. A Buddha acts continuously, spontaneously, and effortlessly. These are these 3 qualities when the Buddha nature is totally developed for the benefit of all sentient beings. So this is why also a Buddha's mind is omnipotent, so omniscient, sorry. So the Buddhas are always there, sometimes when we feel abandoned and alone and all this, we just have to think about the Buddhas and then they're there, but they're only there when we think about them. Otherwise they're not there for us. Yeah. But they're like, I think it was Alex Berzin who said at one point, the blessings of the Buddhas is like radio waves. Well, today would be internet, whatever, waves. So how does one call these things that make the internet? Are they waves also? They're not really waves, are they? What are they? You technical people there. Tomer, what are they? Do you know? How do you call them? Radiation? No? Connection. Well, anyway, when the box is too far away from your computer, then that means there is something. There is some connection between box and computer. I don't know what it's called. So, but if my computer is not on, then nothing will happen, even though the box is on. So this is a bit, the Buddhas are always there. The blessings of the Buddhas are always present. But then, if our computer is not on of devotion and being receptive and thinking about them, then nothing will happen. And me also, very often I forget to take refuge when I have a problem. The moment I start taking refuge or reciting mantras, I calm down and very often the problem is solved. I mean, it would be so powerful. It's not miracle, okay? But it's very, very powerful if we start to apply it. But we forget and we try to figure it out alone very, very often. Okay, so these are these 2, these are the divisions. But we are in the Lam Rim. So in the Lam Rim, we have these 3 levels. So first we start with the first scope to look at this, look at it. Oh, here we go. Okay. So since the text starts with, the foundation of all good qualities, kind and venerable guru, correct devotion to him is the root of the path. It talks about, you can't have people who just come and say, oh, I'm a guru, right? And also at the beginning of the path, when you don't know Buddhism, it's no point looking for a guru and then you think, oh, this guru can do the work for me. And if I have a guru, everything is going well and smoothly and things like that. It's absolutely not like this. If you are convinced that you want to go on this path by knowing the path, and then you think, okay, but there's so many things to practice. So I need somebody who's giving me precise instructions. And especially, as we said before, somebody who is inspiring me, somebody who can open my heart just by being there. And many of us have these beings in their lives. I mean, my guru is not life anymore, but just looking at this picture and just thinking of him, my heart opens. I'm so grateful that he was able to shake me out of my kind of self-concern and, as many pleasures as possible. Rest is not important. I just want an easy and happy life. I still have this attitude, of course, but at least there's also an attitude another attitude that's slowly creeping in. So then a Mahayana guru should have these 10 qualities. So he should be subdued by ethics. So that means he has tamed his body, speech, and mind. So most of us, we have tamed our bodies. And when I say tamed, it means like, the 3 negativities of the body: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. None of us is going around doing these things. But we have to say, and we see that there are people who have not subdued their bodies, and they're just going around and doing these things whenever it comes to their mind, or at least maybe once in their lifetime or something like that. So we can already be happy about this, that we have subdued our body. Of course, we still do smaller negativities, but not these 3 specific actions of the body which are negative. Do you see what I mean? Do you understand? So we can be happy about this, that we're not going around killing, stealing, and you know, raping people. Then when it comes to the speech, I haven't subdued my speech, and when it comes to the mind, definitely not. So that's why, you know, even the first thing, I already failed to be a guru, but I'm working on it, and slowly, it will get better. So and I have good examples. You know, of course, it's difficult if you don't have close contact to the person. If you have a high Rinpoche as your guru, and you only see him, you know, I don't know, once every 2 years, and you have no contact with him, how can you check? You know, this is difficult. But also these texts come from times where, you know, there was one-to-one guru-disciple connection. So, but this is why, you know, volunteering in a Dharma group and saying, for example, I'll cook for the guru. This is great, because then you get contact with these people, you eat with them, or you see them, and then you have close contact. And when I think about subdued by ethics, I especially think about Geshe Tashi, who came to, now he's Ken Rinpoche, he's the abbot of Sera May. He came to Bern many years, and I used to, you know, pick him up, and then I would cook for him, and we would speak, and we would talk about many things, just privately. Never ever there was some, you know, criticism in a nasty way or making fun of somebody. He was very funny. He made lots of jokes, but never on the back of somebody else or like this. I mean, he had really, his speech was totally subdued. And I spent a lot of time with him, talking to him. My guru, I can't really say because I don't speak Tibetan, but definitely I had that his mind was subdued. I think you saw, because he was, you know, he was diagnosed with liver cancer as he was in Israel, that his mind is subdued. For those who were there when he gave his last speech in the hospital, I think then it's quite clear also that his mind was totally subdued. And I kind of saw, you know, his process of going towards death and then dying. There is absolutely no reason not to think that his mind is subdued. But with the speech, I don't know, because I needed a translator. So, you know, he could have made a lot of jokes about me, and nasty jokes, but the translator doesn't translate it. But I don't think so. But we have to be realistic here. Yeah. I only saw that his body is definitely subdued, and his mind also. Then pacified by single point of concentration, thoroughly pacified by not grasping at a separate self. So this is basically, you know, subdued body by ethics, single point of concentration, the speech, and not grasping at the separate self, so having subdued the mind. Then he should have, I'm saying he because all my gurus are men, but it can also be women, of course, or somebody who is transgender. This is absolutely not a problem, because it's the mind who has these things, then has more qualities than you have, that's clear. Perseverance, a wealth of scriptures, realization of emptiness, skilled speaker, love and equanimity, and has given up disappointment. So means the guru never gives you up. And so by seeing these qualities, or at least thinking that they're there, you develop respect. And by seeing the kindness that they, you know, they're not giving up disappointment, they accept you the way you are. They give you the same instructions again and again and again and again. They would never say, oh, now it's enough, you're hopeless, just go away. So that's the kindness. And also they could, you know, they could just not come back and say, woof, you know, I've had enough of these Dharma centers that I have to take care of. People are just fighting with each other, and nobody is really practicing, but they just ego play and this and that, because you see a lot of it in Dharma centers. Not all of it, but there is things like this, of course. And so they could say, oh, you know, I'm not coming back. So that's the kindness. So you develop devotion. Now, if you want to be a disciple, then you also need qualities. So at one point, Geshe Sonam Rinchen at the library, so when we were talking about the qualities of the guru, then somebody said, oh, wow, but it's very difficult to find good gurus these days. So Geshe-la was saying, yes, you know, but it's also very difficult to find good disciples these days. So because he was a guru. So we look at what you should work at. Yeah. So the qualities of the guru, it's your responsibility to check whether he has them or not. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama also was saying at one point when he was teaching in Dharamsala about gurus, sorry for jumping back and forth, but I prefer to see you. So what he was saying, he said, well, you know, you Westerners, you're really strange or you're really funny, because on one hand, you're very intelligent, you know, you have so much knowledge, much more than Tibetans. But when it comes down to gurus, you know, you have no clue what a guru should have. And by guru, I don't mean somebody that you listen teachings. That's not a guru. A guru is somebody that you, at all costs, you follow that advice. This is a guru, somebody that you have that trust. And somebody that, just as I said, you know, when you think about the person, your heart opens, even if the person is dead, if possible, without attachment and without jealousy, when the guru gives more time to another person or like this. So that would be somebody, and somebody makes you practice, somebody that gives you the inspiration for you to carry out the instructions, to put it into practice, basically. So I said, you know that, you can read in the text what kind of qualities a guru should have, but then you don't know this, or you don't care about this. And then some, high lama with high name comes to your place, he's sitting on a high throne, gives some initiations, 2 days later, he's gone again. And then, all of a sudden you get closer to this person, and then they want your money, maybe they want your body. And then you realize, oof, this person has more delusions than I have. And then he said, and then you come and complain to me. And he said, look, I'm not sending these people to the West to teach you. They go because they see how naive and how ignorant you are when it comes to guru. So it's your responsibility to check the guru. Once you have accepted the guru as your guru, then of course, then it has to go. Then it's difficult to still kind of go and saying, oh, he's doing this is not good, and this and this and this, because you kind of just hinder your progress on the path. It's a very, very tricky subject, this one. It's very difficult. Yeah, of course, you should never, even if you have accepted somebody as your guru, and maybe he abuses you sexually, or financially, ruins you financially, or mobs you. This can also come. Like they treat you really like a piece of dirt. It's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to do something, and then even to move away from that person. My guru, Khyentse Chögyam Rinpoche, always said, when that happens, of course, don't stay with the person. Just walk away, and never forget that this person has opened the door to the Dharma for you. Yeah, but don't stay there being abused like this. Think, oh, I'm Milarepa, I'm being beaten, and then I will attain enlightenment very, very quickly. It's not like this. So as I'm saying, it's a tricky thing, this guru business here. But if you have found one, then of course it's like we're very fortunate. But not everybody that gives you Dharma teachings becomes your guru. You decide who is your guru. Okay. So then the qualities of the disciple, you have to be honest, not attached to own group, and not hostile to other groups. You have the wisdom to know right from wrong, which comes from studying the texts. You have to yearn for teachings. You have to have great respect for the teacher, for the guru kind of, yeah? And listen with the right motivation, meaning, the 3 pots of kind of motivation. One pot is upside down, nothing goes in. That's not the right motivation. Another pot has holes, so then it kind of comes out again. And the 3rd pot is contaminated. So you listen because you want to teach yourself and want to earn money or a livelihood with it, or you want to impress others, or you want to destroy other people's view on another religion or something like that. So the right motivation, of course, is bodhicitta. Is that clear until here? Everybody? Yeah, okay. So don't forget your choice or your right that you have. You can open up and you can ask. Now, in order to be able to practice, so the guru is the outer condition, okay? In order to be able to practice, we also need a lot of inner conditions. So it's called the precious human rebirth. So not everybody who is born as a human has a precious human rebirth. So this is actually quite easy to understand. If you don't believe in other existences like hells, other dimensions, hells and hungry ghosts and gods and demigods, you can just, if it's really helpful, take everything into this universe, because we can see that even humans, they have hell existences. Clear? It's an existence which is full of pain, never any, full of fear and paranoia, full of aggression, full of pain, and if it's from the scriptures, a lot of heat and a lot of cold. No time to practice, no way to practice. Again, when we talk about pain, just look where your formal practice of meditation, reciting sadhanas, doing visualization, where is it going when you have a strong headache? Where is it going? Need an answer from you guys. Do you still sit and meditate? Not really, is it? Yeah. So some people say, yeah, but when you suffer, then then the Dharma becomes very clear, and then you have more determination to practice. So I say, okay, you sit down, start meditating. I put the small needle in your leg, and then we'll see whether you still think about, reflect on the suffering, or whether you're interested in getting the needle out. You see, so it's like we need to have good conditions. Of course, if you're very trained, then, and if you suffer, then you use the Dharma, of course, but we're not really going to look for it. So, and especially, being born in a hell state, there's no way we could go listen to teachings and practice. Bombs are falling around us. You wouldn't put on the Zoom and just listen to me quietly. Hungry ghost, meaning your basic needs are not getting fulfilled. The mind is just looking for food, drink, drugs, things like that. So then an animal, you wouldn't have. I'm not saying animals are bad. If your mind is full of negativities and you just use your intelligence to exploit people or to destroy them, then much better to be an animal than a human. But if you have altruism or interest in developing love and compassion, then of course much better to be a human than an animal, because you can attain enlightenment. This is why one doesn't look for an animal rebirth. Also, Westerners, sometimes they say, yeah, but it's wonderful to be reborn as a dolphin or as a cat or something like that. When the Tibetans hear it, they go like, why, are you crazy or something? A cat who is running after birds and mice and killing it and playing with it. Dolphins, I think, are raping their partners or something like that. It's like, we have these romantic ideas about the animal world. The animal world is really cruel. And of course, there are animals who have incredibly beautiful lives, our pets. But what makes you so sure that if you're born as an animal, that you will be, I don't know, the dog of the Dalai Lama? He doesn't have any dogs. What makes you sure that you will be the pet of somebody? And even if you have, you are the cat of somebody who takes care about you. What if that person dies before you die? And nobody wants you. You go into an animal shelter where these animals were bought with a lot of love, and we'll look after them and blah blah and this and that. Maybe for a few years or a few months they had a beautiful time. But then again, now before the holiday is like, what shall we do with the dog? We want to go on a holiday. Now we can travel again. And in France, there's this habit. They go to the highway. They just tie the dogs, on a rope or somewhere on a parking lot, and then that's it, and then they leave. Imagine that existence as a pet.
It happens here too.
Happens there too, yeah. It's like, please don't do it. Really think if you want to have an animal, even also with your children, of course they always want animals. but really, really think what it means. Or have somebody that you can give the animal to when you go on a holiday. But having an animal is like having another child. It's like you can't just leave your child behind when you go on a holiday. And especially young puppies, you know, they destroy more than your children. So think about it. Because also now during the COVID, you know, all people, so many people bought dogs and puppies. And anyway, so then a long living God. So these three existences, they're not conducive because we don't have the capacities or the, you know, the conditions to practice. Long living God is when your existence is too good, so you don't want to practice. This is Switzerland. Yeah, like we have many Dharma practitioners, especially in Switzerland, because the weather is very often not nice. So when they have the choice between Dharma teaching or going to the mountains, and all of a sudden the weather is nice and it's maybe the only nice day in a month, they choose the mountain. They don't choose the Dharma teachings, what to do. But also when you listen to Dharma teachings, you shouldn't do this out of guilt or duty or whatever. You should listen to it with just as much joy as going to the mountains. So you have to first think about the advantages and the disadvantages. And don't deprive you of something, don't deprive yourself of something that you find good and pleasant, and kind of, you know, and you do Dharma instead, because you'll get angry at the Dharma that it takes away your pleasures. So again, you have to find a good middle way there. How to do it is, unfortunately, there is no very exact manual how to handle these things. Sometimes you need a break. So leave the Dharma practice behind and go to the mountain because you need a break. Yeah, otherwise it becomes too heavy and too, you know, you vomit this whole thing. The same as with food. The food can be very delicious. If you eat too much, you vomit it. So you are the one who is kind of knowing. But if your life goes really well, there's not much need and not much wish, because we don't see the suffering. Then we have to be free from having wrong views. And the wrong views in Buddhist terms, and don't forget, this is not just to have a good life also. Yeah, this is to have a good rebirth, next rebirth. So it's not about this life, you know, to transform our mind. So here the wrong view would be there is no rebirth, there is no karma, there is no continuous mind that existed since beginningless time, and that just continues until enlightenment and then still continues, but as enlightened. There is no Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. They don't have these qualities and all this. This would be considered wrong views, because if we have these views, we will not be able to attain enlightenment. We could be born, we have to be free from being born in a place where there's no spiritual teachings. Can you imagine what it would be if there would have been no Zoom now, the last 2 years? We would have been totally dry of, you know, luckily you have Israelis who can teach. Yeah, but if you think about all the teachings you received from Chadar Rinpoche, His Holiness Dalai Lama, Geshe Dorje Damdrul, also Geshe Pema Dorje, and you know, Geshe-ma every Sunday, Karzong, so wow, yeah, it's a present. In a barbaric place, I would say Afghanistan at the moment is a barbaric place where you know, well, go to Afghanistan and say you're a Buddhist. This is it, you know, try to open a Buddhist center in Afghanistan, because for the Muslims, Buddhism is just about the worst, because we do deny an omnipotent creator. So you know, so that would be a barbaric place. Also, Tibet is or was a barbaric place that when you were following the Dalai Lama, they would put you into prison and torture or kill you. Would we have the courage to still practice if we would live in such a place? I doubt. I don't think I would. Yeah. And then also we have to be free from having limited mental capacities. Okay. So why this is pointed out? Because it makes it impossible to practice when we are not free from these things. So the way you do the reflection is you go through them and you go like, oh, wow, I'm not overcome by excruciating pain. I'm not overcome by terrible lack. I'm not overcome by Animal is usually just being interested in comfort and sex. Yeah, I don't have that kind of attitude. My life is not too good, so I understand suffering. I don't have wrong views. If you don't have, you might have, I don't know. I get spiritual teachings. I'm not in a barbaric place at the moment, and I don't have limited mental capacities. This also goes for being blind, not hearing, because also then it's very difficult to get teachings and to understand and all this. So then when we become aware that we are free from these conditions, we become very happy. Yeah? Is that okay? And then we want to do something with this. We see the preciousness. You know, it's a bit like realizing that we have precious human rebirth is like somebody giving you for this life an unlimited Visa card. You would be so happy and you would protect that card. You know, you would think all your problems are finished, but the problems are still not finished. But with these conditions, we can work for a situation where all my problems are then finished. So then we need to have certain things. So the first ones are, you know, the freedoms, and then we need to have the 10 endowments. Sometimes it's called the 10 richnesses. We need to be human. We need to be born in a central land with at least 4 fully ordained monks, because 4 fully ordained monks who keep their vows purely, this is another thing, that becomes the Sangha jewel that we can take refuge in. And I'm not sure if that would still be handled like this, you know, today, because I think at the time of the Buddha, it was like either people were incredibly rich and they would just, you know, they wouldn't do any spiritual practices because they were rich and they were enjoying their life, or they were incredibly poor, so they didn't have time to do spiritual practices. So this is why the Sangha was so important, because the Sangha was neither very rich nor very poor. It was being cared for, didn't have to worry about food, shelter, clothes, and medicine. So they could then practice, develop their minds, and then teach. Now, this is why, you know, it's so important that there are fully ordained monks or nuns. And also there's a saying in the text, I think in one of the sutras, when there's no more ordained Sangha, then the Buddha Dharma will disappear. I'm not so sure about this, quite honestly, because now we have many, many wonderful lay teachers. We have all the scientists also who help us with that. So, but I think, you know, sometimes we mustn't forget that it comes from 2,500 years, 600 years ago. So, but anyway, if you are somewhere in the central land where there are fully ordained monks and nuns, then just know that you are very rich. You have the possibility, just appreciate it. And also, you know, it's quite difficult for Sangha members in the West, because most of us, we have to sustain ourselves. We have to look after ourselves financially. I'm lucky enough, I must have very good money karma, because I never had financial problems. Also now, even though I'm not doing so many teachings anymore. And also somebody gave me this studio, so I don't even have to pay rent. So, but some others have like incredible financial difficulties, and then, you know, then they give up. So some of us are at the front, so we do get sponsoring and we do get money, but some of them are doing retreat or studying and not teaching, and nobody knows that they're actually existing. So it's really worthwhile, maybe not to support them individually financially, but more like spaces where they can stay, like monasteries, nunneries and monasteries. And I see, you know, I miss the Sangha because now I'm living alone. I'm not living in the center anymore. I have contact with, physical contact with the center, which is a bit further down, but I do miss the Sangha. So it's like, it's important. Then we need to have all the sense organs intact. This goes a little bit with that other one here, you know, not being free from having limited mental capacities. again, it is possible to practice if you're blind, for example, because you can listen to the teachings. But I remember we had one blind man in Dharamsala. He was Indian and he was living up in Makwaganj and he wanted to go down to the library. He was Indian. He didn't have much money to take a taxi. So he was just standing every day. He was standing in front of the dialectic school, waiting for somebody to take him by the hand, to take him down to the library. And I used to do that almost every day. But it was very slow. I had to go earlier because he was very slow. And I felt myself, because I was a bit late and nobody had taken him yet. I was not the only one taking him, okay? And I felt myself sneaking by him so I would be on time. And then I realized, what are you doing? And so both of us, we came late, but still it was like, you know, sometimes, of course you have people helping you, but sometimes they get fed up with you also. Yeah, because, so, you know, these senses are very fragile. So it's another reason to be, instead of being depressed about the problems that we have, it's really good to just rejoice, you know, to rejoice that we have our senses that work, you know, when you have your mind going like, you know, but you just to remember and just to think like, hey, but I can see, I can hear, I can walk, you know, imagine your life if you can't walk, what would that be like? Yeah, I can smell, I can taste. So, yeah, I think we don't appreciate that too often. We usually always see the shortcomings, then we get upset. Not having committed the 5 heinous crimes, because it says in the text, it prevents you from attaining enlightenment in this lifetime. So 5 heinous crimes are having killed with, you know, really wanting to kill them, planning to kill them, and being happy that you killed them, your father and your mother. So this is 2, because, you know, you exist because they gave you this body and they look after you until you're grown up and can look after yourself. So these are the first 2. Then killing an arhat. So we don't know who an arhat is. An arhat is somebody who is not fully enlightened, but who is liberated, yeah, for destroy. Killing somebody like this, drawing blood voluntarily from the Buddha. Again, we don't know who is a Buddha. Yeah, so that's why you shouldn't injure anybody voluntarily. You shouldn't kill anybody voluntarily, please, because you don't know what you're doing. And the 5th one is creating a schism in the Sangha. Like you have a community that works really well, but you're not so happy with maybe some people who are on the board or something like that. And you want to create a schism. You know, sometimes people just fight and then the community falls apart. That happens. But in order for it to be a heinous crime, you want this Dharma group to split. And then when people stop practicing, that would be one of the 5 heinous crimes. Sometimes they say it only happens when the Buddha is present, like at the time of the Buddha. But I think also we have to be careful, you know, when we start to take sides and create split in the community. Again, it doesn't mean that you keep harmful people there who are just fighting and this and that, but try not to make groups. This is, I think, the worst for a Dharma community, because it's exactly not what the Buddha has taught, because we should have equanimity. So don't side up and don't be against something, yeah, because it's harmful. But it's not, if you just do that, it wouldn't be one of the 5 heinous crimes. If you have done one of these 5 heinous crimes, you can, of course, purify, but you cannot attain enlightenment in this one lifetime when you do the crime. Then we have to have faith in the teachings, and very important, in your own ability that you can attain the goal. This is probably one of the most important ones. Then we need to live in a time where an enlightened being has appeared. So now we still know that the teachings come from Shakyamuni Buddha, and then we have the sutras, and then we have the commentaries on the sutras, and so on. That continues. You know, people keep to do commentaries now combined with science on these sutras. So that's wonderful, but it has to come from somebody that we still know who he was. There will be times where there is no Buddha will appear. Then, but the Buddhas will be around all the time, but they will not say that they are Buddhas. So they have to teach the whole path to enlightenment, which Shakyamuni Buddha did. These two vehicles, the Hinayana, the Mahayana. The Pali tradition and the Sanskrit tradition, and the teachings remain in an undegenerated state. Well, this, I don't know, but I think we still have very clear instructions how to attain full awakening. The teachings are still being practiced. This is why we need the centers, because if we just have books, nobody's practicing it, we will not get very far. And people in general are kind-hearted. People still appreciate that you want to kind of develop a healthy, sane mind with a good heart. It's still being appreciated. But some people also, you know, they say, well, this is stupid, this is naive. Doing volunteer work when you could earn money, why are you doing this? This is totally stupid. Going sitting on your cushion is totally stupid. But luckily, they are not too many. So people in general are kind-hearted, means also if you need financial support and you are, you know, you want to do long retreat, that people would support you financially, they would sponsor you. That is also what it means, being kind-hearted. So a precious human rebirth, like the causes for it, come about by keeping pure morality, practicing generosity and patience, and having made specific aspirations. Okay? So this is why this last verse, let me see if I can find it. This last verse in this, the foundations of all good qualities, is so important. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy, you might not see it yet. Ooh. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma by completing the qualities of the stages and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Yeah? It's good to, in the morning when you get up, you know, if you can say that, this would be so wonderful, because then at the time of death, your subtle mind will remember what you actually want, and it will push you towards conditions where you can continue with the practice. So we must have kept ethical conduct at one point, otherwise we would not be sitting here studying or listening to teachings on the Lam Rim. But then there are also these 16 practices for a precious human rebirth. You abstain from the 10 negative actions, which is killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, slander, harsh words, meaningless speech, envy, harmful thoughts, wrong views, and intoxicants. And then, so these are I don't know how many, these 10 probably. Then an honest livelihood, non-harming, you know, on purpose, giving with respect, and honoring the honorable, and developing love. So this is, if you practice this, so again, don't forget, yeah, it doesn't say do it, it says practices, meaning training. So don't be too demanding on yourself. Yeah, I'm doing this. If we see that we still have a problem with lying, slander, harsh words, meaningless speech, envy, and so on, we still have a problem with it. We keep practicing, we keep training. That's enough. Okay? So don't be too, you know, because if we can do all this, then we're enlightened, we're Buddha. Yeah. Okay, is it more or less clear, this whole thing? Maybe we do a short reflection on this afterwards. You know, what you should now, your faces should be like, wow, this is how you should be when you realize this. You know, not, oh yeah, I have precious human rebirth. When we had in Kopan, my first course, when we had this meditation, I totally freaked out. I tell you, I was I was so excited, but not in a good way, because we went through this. It was a long meditation. Yeah, it was like an hour meditation. We went through all these points, and Ani Jan from Kopan, she was leading it. And I realized I had all these 10 points. And so when the meditation was finished, so I ran out and grabbed her and I said, look, I was almost a bit upset. And I said, okay, look, I have all these points. So what shall I do now? And then I said, but I don't want to become a nun. Yeah, this was kind of, tell me what to do, but not too much. So you know what she answered? Some of you might have heard the story. You know what she answered? No. She said, actually, she asked me a question and she said, how much money do you have? And then I thought, wow, so much for a spiritual practitioner here. She's asking me about my money. So I told her how much money I have. And she said, well, if you're serious and you really want to do something about enlightenment and you want to use your precious human rebirth for that, just stay in the East and continue to study and to practice. And that's what I did. So, really looking at the conditions. I want to do something with this, but what can I do? So my conditions were, I had already left Switzerland 3 years ago. I had enough money to stay in India for 20 years or something. So why? So just, again, come back to the present and go step by step for what you are able to do if you really want to do something with it. So was very good advice, very simple, very practical. Just stay here. If you are, and she said, if you are serious. So it looks as if I was serious. I don't know, because I'm still at it. And anyway, also, if you, if you have been practicing and following teachings and all this, I think for 5 years, then be very, very happy, because most probably it will hold until the end of your life. You will not give it up. But it needs quite a number of years to follow teachings regularly until it holds. Yeah. Like you might not be able to go to teaching so much because you started young and then you have children and all this, but still the interest for enlightenment is always there. So be very happy about this, because most of the people lose it. I always say, if everybody who had come to listen to Dharma teachings, just with the Dharma friends in Israel, and we would make one teaching where everybody would come who were interested and who found it really good. You would need to rent a football stadium. It would be so many people. Look how many people remain. Again, it's not a criticism. I'm saying this, be very happy that you haven't lost interest, or that life has not taken over too much that you can't practice anymore, or you can't listen to teachings or whatever. So be very happy about this. Okay? So if you're not saying anything, I just continue. If you want to say something, don't wait until the end. Okay? Because then otherwise we go over time. So that's the first topic. The first topic is to make you happy, to make you appreciate, to make you grateful that you have all these conditions. And you have to think about this again and again and again and again and again, until you have the same feeling, as I just said, as if somebody would give you a wish-fulfilling jewel or an unlimited Visa card that has no expiry date. It finishes when you're dead. This is the feeling you should have. That, with the Visa, with an unlimited Visa card, you would have so many freedoms, right? You would still have problems. With the precious human rebirth, we still have problems, but we have so many freedoms to choose what we want to do. But it's not just an intellectual choosing. It also is a matter of karma, by the way. So even though, people who start with the Dharma, but then they give up, they don't have enough merit to continue. But they have heard it, and something is in their mind now. So then that will start to work, and at one point they will be like us and just continuing and having this attitude. I want to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, no matter what it costs. Okay, so the next point that helps us with appreciating what we have is when we start to think that it's not permanent. So these are the points here, yeah? And, you know, we think we know that life is not permanent. If somebody asks you and says, do you think you will live forever? Then everybody would say, well, of course not. But our attitude is deep down, the automatic pilot, as if we live forever. You know, yeah, it is. Death is certain. Yeah. But somehow we still haven't realized it. Maybe you have, but especially people haven't realized, you know, ordinary people especially have not realized it, because yeah, you're welcome, Dina. So yeah, it's like, you know, in the morning, waking up, especially when we talk about death, each night we could die. I mean, if you are a doctor, they can confirm how many conditions it needs to keep this body going and how few conditions it needs to stop the body. You know, a friend of mine, her sister, I mean, the one who owns this apartment, her sister had to undergo a heart operation, and it's like, wow, you know, now she's got water in her lungs and all this. It's like, when you hear this, then we start to appreciate our present situation. So it's good to look around sometimes and to really realize how fortunate we are. And then in the morning, to have this thought, oh, wow, I haven't died yet. I don't have to continue point zero. You know, even if you're reborn as a human, I don't have to go at the moment, to go through pregnancy, being in the womb, birth, being a baby, being totally dependent on your parents, growing up, being insecure, not knowing what to do with your life, not having the right conditions, not finding a partner, not having children, getting old, dying, boom. So I'm still alive. I can practice, you know, and practice. You can go into the toilet, you can practice. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he has mantras for everything, for peeing, for caca, for, you know, so that everything becomes bodhicitta, for cutting vegetables, for washing yourself, closing door, opening doors. Everything can become dharma. It's your choice. So in order to realize this, there is 3 main points, which is death is certain, time of death is uncertain, what will help at the time of death. These 3 main points as kind of reasons why death is certain, why the time of death is uncertain. And, you know, here the point is what will help at the time of death, what not especially. And and then, which it's not here, because this you should make your own resolve. We have understood this deeply, then we would make some decisions, okay? So the first point is death is certain. So it's not so difficult to understand. We will go through this, and then we make 5 minutes break, and then we do a reflection on it before we go lunch break. It's impossible to find a body that does not die, okay? Absolutely impossible. Everybody who is born has to die. This is natural law, and we totally kind of go against it, you know? When we see that natural law is working and somebody's dying, we're depressed and we're sad and we think it's terrible, but it's normal. So it shows that we definitely haven't understood that point. So then every moment we are approaching death, we cannot add anything to our lifespan. Like, you know, it's like having a bank account and nothing goes in. So it decreases. So we should think about this. But again, we act as if we have limitless time. You know, if I say we, I include myself. And if you think you're not like this, then just be very happy. Yeah, because then that's quite rare. And we're constantly involved in causes that will not help at the time of death. You know, like, not just because we want, but also because we have to. Yeah, when you read the Lam Rim, then you have much more reasons, like there, you know, they give you much more arguments. For example, we have to sleep, we have to eat, we have to rest. Or they say, when either you're too young to practice, then in the middle of your life, you have to kind of worry about the livelihood. And then when you would have time to practice, you're too old and your brain is not working properly anymore. So it's also a bit like this. So all these things, and very often we do things we don't need to do. We don't have to do them, but we still do because habit or not caring that at the time of death, that action that I'm doing now, will that be useful? So don't get paranoid, okay? Because I have to every action, not like this, but to reflect and again and again and again. And once we have a realization of that, then our behavior changes naturally. Yeah. So before our behavior changes naturally, we can a little bit adjust, but don't get too rigid. Otherwise you go mad here. Yeah. Then time of death is uncertain. That is also clear. We have no fixed lifespan. If we would know when we die, it wouldn't be so complex. It wouldn't be so difficult. We could say, okay, now 2 years I do this and then I do Dharma, but we have no guarantee when we die. Why is that? Why is the time of death uncertain? Because there's many causes for death, very few to support life. And another reason here is the body is very fragile. It's not just old people who die, also young people die. So that, again, we have to think about that again and again and again in order to internalize it. And then we look, what will help at the time of death. So it's not to say you shouldn't have any possessions, nor friends and families, nor a body. Anyway, the body we need. But it is to say that we put a lot of energy and resources and thoughts into possessions, friends and family, and the body. And with the possessions, it doesn't have to be very important things. It can be, as I said, something stupid like a cloth to kind of clean the windows that I don't know where I left it. Yeah. And every time I think about it, it's like I get, where is this cloth? It's like, this is how stupid it can be sometimes. It's the attachment that counts, not what you possess. It's how attached you are to it. I'm very attached to this cloth because it's the only cloth that doesn't make streaks that I've found until now on the window. And it disappeared. Don't know where I put it. So anyway, but the possessions, we cannot buy life. It's a bit like this. You cannot bribe death, like even rich people have to die. It's not that the poor die quickly and the rich die late. Not necessarily. You cannot prolong your life with your possessions. Friends and family cannot help. No matter how much your friends don't want you to die, you still have to go. And then definitely the body cannot help because it's the body who is causing death. Okay? Because it's the mind doesn't die, but it's the body that dies. So this is to show us where our interest is when we are alive and where we put a lot of time, resources, energy into having these things. And again, I'm not saying you shouldn't put energy into having good relationship with friends and family. I'm not saying that. But at the time of death, these three things will collapse and you cannot take them with you. You cannot rely on them. You might be able to rely on them by thought, by thinking, wow, I have so many nice things. Now somebody else can enjoy them. Then that puts the mind in a positive state. But who will think like this at the time of death? There are people. A friend of mine who had cancer, she says, well, if I die soon, then my daughter can have my apartment because she will never be able to get her own apartment. Then she said, if I don't die soon and I live longer, then I will be able to at least support her with other things. So it's like, this is how we should start thinking. Yeah. Then friends and family. So if you have a lot of attachment to friends and family and you always run for help and you never learn to figure out your problems by yourself, you will be at the lost. There is no reception in the bardo for your mobile. No Google, there's no Google Maps, there's no friends that you can phone. and the body cannot help. So the body also, that, you know, when we're not feeling well, we take refuge in the body. We go and eat something, do some sports, have sex, take drugs, alcohol, whatever. And also because we don't have that one anymore. So why we are thinking like this is that we start to look what will help at the time of death. Okay, so this is what is called the 9-point death meditation, which I'm sure many of you are very, very, very familiar with this. Because death has to be taken into your spiritual practice, otherwise it's like, otherwise we just work for this life, and this is not what we want. Is that clear? Because if it's clear, we make maybe just short pee break, 2-3 minutes, and then we do reflection on this. Okay? Okay, so I guess it's okay because nobody's saying anything. Did you, I mean, does it make sense what I said? Does it hold? Is it okay? Is it moving? Is it moving something in your mind? It's more a bit like that. Or is it just, you know, oh, the same old thing again? Don't know. Okay, fine. You all have developed total equanimity. So it's neither this nor that. This is so wonderful. And voila. Okay, so we make like 2-3 minutes break. Very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's very helpful if you tell me that's very helpful. Thank you, Dina. So we make maybe 3 minutes break. I ring the gong here. And then we start with the reflection. So it's good to stand up, to stretch, to relax, to be happy, to think, whoa, I'm still alive. I could be dead, you know, I could have died in the last hour, but I didn't. Okay. So again, you make yourselves comfortable, try to sit with a straight back if at all possible. It's just a habit also to try to sit in a good way if you, yeah, right, exactly. I think you can see the message of Joyce, you can read it. Breathing healthy and strong. Yeah, so this can become a habit, you know, to in the morning, I haven't died. Wow, okay, my life is difficult. Yeah. But again, you know, precious human rebirth. We're not going to go through these points. You can all read them in the, you know, this is why we made the outline so that we don't forget them. You can download it either from the website or now from the chat. To see, okay, you know, life is difficult. That's samsara. That's what the Buddha says. We talked about Four Noble Truths. But I have so many resources. And the best resource that I have is my Buddha nature, my potential. And not only that, I have instructions and methods how to bring it to the surface, how to eliminate whatever covers it. Not only that, I have people around me who are doing the same thing. I have my teachers, I have my spiritual colleagues on the path with whom I can share my successes, my worries, my failures, my joys, and my pains that we all experience on this not so easy path. And because we know about emptiness, we know that we don't have to take it so dead serious. Isn't that wonderful? So before we start thinking about death and impermanence, to really, really become aware of how fortunate we are. And it's not that the situation that we are in is a coincidence. We know about karma, we know about cause and effect. So it means we have created through our actions in past lives, we have created the causes to be so fortunate now. I think a very good example is like, if you are in the lower states, be it, you know, another dimension or countries where it's really difficult or situations that are really difficult or mind is totally going bonkers and crazy. It's like being in a prison. You have absolutely no choice. Sometimes from outside, but very, very, very often we don't have an internal choice because our mind is filled with confusion, aggression, desire, wrong views, and so on. So it's like being in a prison. In a prison, you have no choice what you want to do. So then think, like in past lives, or like in the past, we have kind of dug a tunnel out of this prison through our ethical conduct, practicing generosity, patience, and making the right aspirations. So now we're out of the prison. This is the feeling that we should have, having all these choices, these freedoms and endowments. So, you know, what would you think a prisoner like this would do? It's raining. Would you think he worries and he says, oh, I want to go back to prison, it's raining out here? Or would we first go and kind of, you know, want to go to the movies and eat a pizza? Or would he understand where I came out from the tunnel? It is still very close to the prison, so I have to keep running. Pleasure is not here yet. I have to make sure I go to a place where the prison guards, which is death, cannot find me, because otherwise, again and again and again, I get put into prison again and again and again. In order to have some kind of freedom, I have to dig a tunnel And again and again and again, I will get caught again. So this is, death, rebirth, death, rebirth. We talk about it next weekend or this afternoon. No, next weekend. No, tomorrow. Gosh, good thing I have it printed out here. To have this, to have this, I have something in my hands right now. Maybe it's finishing in 2 minutes, but right now, I can make choices. And I want to make the right choice to stay with the topic of impermanence and death, and not to plan for lunch what I will eat. I could die before lunch. Then lunch is not important anymore. But to have that feeling of, I can do this. I need to do this. I want to do this, and I can do this. I can attain a state where I don't have to dig tunnels anymore every time. Liberation and full awakening. That's what I want. So then the first point is like death is certain. Again, we can't imagine a world without me, isn't it? So picture a graveyard. Picture a stone with your name on it. No need for a date, just your name. That's all that will remain of us. A stone with a name. In 100, 200 years, we will be forgotten. We're all running. Where is our final goal? The graveyard. Or, here in Switzerland, you get cremated, the ashes are getting scattered. Or as a Buddhist, put into tsatsas, it doesn't matter. As a Buddhist, not even a gravestone is kind of remaining. Not even your name. If you think in terms of 50 maybe not enough. But if you think in terms of 100 or 150 years from now, none of us will be around in this body, and none of the people that we know. Can we feel that absolute certainty? No way we can escape. No place we can hide. Nobody can help us, not even the Dalai Lama, not even the Buddha. Whether you're famous or totally unknown, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're black, white, yellow, or whatever, man, women, everybody has to die. And me too. Second point, time is constantly running out. We cannot take it back. See, if you're a prisoner, again, like death sentence, you know that you have so many days to live. Okay, you can die before, but you definitely know, I will not be able to live longer than that. And you know that it gets shorter, 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 shorter. Do we realize that? If we would realize it, how would we spend the time the way we spend it, being depressed, being anxious, putting so much energy into doing totally useless things? You see, whatever we do, it's really good to check, is that meaningful? It can look very worldly, but it can, if it's meaningful for you, then it's okay. But we do so many things totally mindlessly, not even asking ourselves, is that meaningful? Yeah, there's this beautiful book by Viktor Frankl, which is about, if you want to have a happy life, give it meaning. So of course, Mahayana Buddhism, meaning is out of samsara for the benefit of all sentient beings. But it hasn't been so high staked. But it has to have meaning so that we can die a peaceful death. But time is running out. The next main point is that the time of death is uncertain. I made myself a cup of tea in the break. And when I look, I'm convinced that I can finish drinking that cup of tea. Most probably I will, but not 100%. We make so many plans and we hardly count deaths amongst them. Now, we don't need to kind of plan, where will I be buried? It's more, how can I die without regret? And why is the time of death uncertain? Because we don't have fixed lifespan, like your Visa card or your card for the gym. It has a date on it, an expiry date. We don't have that. So we don't know. And death is not going to say, oh yeah, I know you haven't finished your project yet. I will wait until you finish. It can come any moment. When we look, sometimes beings die in the womb, at birth, as babies, as small children, as children, teenagers, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Then as it goes, 60, 70, 80 becomes a bit more normal. Not necessarily. Body is very fragile. And we're constantly surrounded by things that can cause death. I mean, I used this example for the 30 years of my Dharma practice, saying, the body is fragile, saying that even something as small can enter it and it can cause death. There was no COVID when I said it. Now it has become really, really realistic. We can't see this bloody virus. Look what it does to the world. Something as small as a virus. This is how fragile we are. All the projects that we have, science and economy and politics and and the whole thing. And then something like this virus comes and poof, puts everything upside down. And then we start to struggle, make new plans. How about making plans how to escape samsara? We all think once the virus is finished, then life will go back to normal. Yeah, but still, there's a lot of other causes that can cause death. Cars, planes that fall down, earthquakes, floods, forest fires. When we read about these disasters, we're always quite kind of convinced, oh yeah, it happens, but not to me. Isn't it? We have this we live in this totally fake reality that we are safe. We're not. So I said, there's conclusions. When you start to understand this point, then you can make a conclusion. This is the homework for the Wednesday people. Think about these points and then make their own conclusions. And now you make your own conclusion. When you think that death is certain and the time of death is uncertain, what's your conclusion? And that has to kind of fire in your neurons so that the habits change. So stay with that decision, with the conclusion. understanding death is certain and the time of death is uncertain. Even if the decision or the conclusion only holds for 1 or 2 days, or even if for 1 minute, it's okay. That's why we do the repetition all the time, so that the firing becomes a wiring from neuroscience. We have to decide again and again and again and again. If I understand death is certain, the time of death is uncertain, what's the conclusion to that? What's my decision? And then we look, we look at where our interest resources go in general. It goes into possessions, quite happy, and it works as long as we're still alive. It really works. You feel a bit low, then you look maybe at your bank account or your diamond ring or your beautiful clothes, shoes, house, cars, whatever. It's just a form of consolation, or that you have enough money that you can go out and shop. It helps, short term, definitely. But will it help at the time of death? Knowing that you have to leave it all behind. It's no refuge, it's not reliable. It can become a terrible burden at the time of death, when somebody has to clean up your stuff. Possessions cannot really help at the time of death if you are attached to them. If you think, okay, the garbage man will come, it will all be thrown away. It's okay if you don't suffer, it's fine. If you don't feel, oh, it's such a loss, they should use it. No, give it up now. You can't take it with you. It doesn't belong to you anymore. People can do with it whatever they want. Then we don't suffer at the time of death. Then friends and family. Whatever needs to be cleared up, please clear it up now, so that it doesn't weigh on you, it doesn't bother you at the time of death. And develop, affection, love, kindness. If we can go from this world with the thought, I haven't harmed anybody, wouldn't that be wonderful? If we can go from this world with the thought, I've been of benefit to others, that's even more wonderful. But it's that I haven't harmed anybody, which is important at the beginning. First, you have to learn not to harm. But if you have harmed others in the past, let go. Be more careful in the future. Every minute we do have a choice if we have awareness and we know what we want, whether to create more causes for suffering or more causes for happiness, for liberation and enlightenment, especially with friends and family. Another thing we're attached to is this body, and we don't feel the attachment to this body, because with attachment is the possession should do something for us, friends and family should do something for me. So especially at the time of death, when friends and families, they don't want to come and see you anymore because they don't know what to say. It's totally wrong thinking, because they think they're living and they think you are dying. We're all dying. And they don't have to do anything. They just have to acknowledge you and be there. So that goes for when you sit with dying people. Don't make that split between I'm living and they are dying. It's not true. So anyway, we expect from friends and family to still be there for us, to come and see us. But when we start to smell and we start to be confused and we start to be afraid, and they can't help us, then they don't want to come anymore. Then we get disappointed, even angry. So something that we might get angry at is our body, because it's the body that causes death. So at the time of death, it says, get out of here. You know, I'm tired. And we invested so much in that body, all the thoughts, all the money, all the exercise we did, all the food we gave it, all the vitamins. Oof. And then, boom, finished, collapses at the time of death. We're so used to have a body. You know, remember being in a dream or waking up and not knowing who you are, having no reference points. Wow, that's so confusing. This will happen at the time of death. We can't take it with us. Like, for example, now when you're confused or panicking, it's enough to touch something like the body or the ground, the earth, and then we calm down. In time of death, not possible. Okay, so now I leave you for 2-3 minutes to understand. I need possessions, I need friends and family, I need a body at the moment. But these 3 things will not be able to help me at the time of death, because I have to leave them behind. I cannot count on them that they will help me, you know, in the bardo. So where can I turn my mind now that I have access to in the bardo? When I think about that, whatever it is, my mind calms down. It becomes calm, composed, or at least not as panicky and confused as before. So the conclusion here is, when I see that possessions can't help, friends and family can't help, body can't help, what can help? And I want you to make your own conclusion here. We all know what the books say. But is it, when we have problems now, is it that direction where the mind turns? Or does it turn towards possessions, friends, family, and the body? What will help at the time of death? And if, you know, if it's the Dharma, do I have a close and good connection with it? Okay. So thank you very much for being with us and with me this morning. So if you're still there this afternoon, so you see, we also, for those who have, I mean, Janai is my host. So you are sure that you will be there. I mean, if that's the plan, I'm not sure. You're sure that you still be there this afternoon, isn't it? Is that realistic? I am convinced that I'm there this afternoon because I have to and you have to. So we're convinced, but it's not realistic. You can die, I can die. It's like, yeah. So we don't need to go around and, you know, not making any plans, but to think, okay, this is the plan. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, well, then that's it, you know. And then instead of being shocked, we can kind of think, oh, the Buddha is right. Death can happen any moment, even if it's not planned. But maybe we'll still be there in the afternoon. We will go through the workings of karma And then we do a short meditation. Also, what I wanted to talk about a little bit just now is about tomorrow. Ronnie will be happy about this, that tomorrow it will be not so long, because Geshe Tashi is teaching for the Burn Center, and I would really like to say hello to him. And he starts at 4 o'clock. So tomorrow we finish at 4 o'clock. So if that's okay with you, instead of 5, yeah. You know, now it's the big question, should you be unhappy about it by seeing the value of the Dharma? Should you be happy about it? Or whatever. So like this. So tomorrow afternoon will be a little bit different. Maybe tomorrow we just make an hour lunch break, and but I'm sure I can finish. We meet again at 3:30. Is that right? No, 2:30. 2:30. Sorry, I get mixed up with the hours sometimes. 2:30, isn't it?
2:30.
2:30. Okay. So please enjoy your lunch. Also, very nice practice is that before you just gulp it down, you know, you eat it with bodhicitta, kind of thing. Wow. To all beings who have been there to produce that food, you say thank you, just briefly, you know, and you go, my Dharma practice, my spiritual practice are dedicated for your well-being. When I'm a fully enlightened Buddha, I will lead you to enlightenment, and that's the best way to repay your kindness. And then the food becomes actually quite, you know, quite delicious. You can offer it to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas out of gratitude that we have this path in order to free ourselves from suffering and the causes of suffering, before we just go do. Just a small thought about Mother Earth, who works very hard to feed us, and then all the living beings who have been put in a lot of effort and a lot of work. And then please enjoy the food, because it's such a waste, you know. We're so inconsiderate if we don't enjoy the food when we think so much effort has gone into this food, and there's so little money that these people earn who work in the fields, and then we just go, you know, we don't even enjoy it. So please do enjoy your food. Okay? Okay, great. So thank you, and see you at 2:30.
Thank you so much, Anila. Thank
You are
you.
very welcome,
Appreciate
Joyce.
it very much.
Okay. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.